Hi, ladies, and welcome in to the Ladies' Lunch Break. I am your host, Crystal Fry, a woman's best friend. Today, first of all, happy Friday. Thank you all for popping on and joining me and spending your lunch break with me today. Today, we're going to talk about our differences. And more specifically, or more importantly, the question of why we don't celebrate our differences. Why don't we celebrate our differences more? And this topic is one that has kind of been on my mind for a little while now, and it's one that I've kind of gone back and forth with and trying to understand. And so, for me, I am a person who I think you've probably heard me say this multiple times before. I am a person who believes that there's always a better way to do what we're doing, right? There's always ways to improve. There's always something new that we can learn. Everything that we encounter is an opportunity to learn and grow. And so this is one topic that that for me is one that I've kind of wondered about. Why don't we celebrate our differences more? Why don't we look at them and excuse me, and see how fantastic our differences make us? And when we talk about differences, I'm not just talking about racial differences. That is a very obvious one because we see that, right? We see people's skin color. As we are meeting them, we see that, but even and hair color, your cultural beliefs, your heritage, your likes, your dislikes, all of those things make up our differences. And we don't spend enough time, I don't think, actually looking at those differences in positive lights. And speaking for us as women, but also, from a more global standpoint, from a more, human being standpoint, and just really kind of wondering why we don't celebrate our differences more. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on as we're going through and talking about it today. Please feel free to drop your comments, share your thoughts. Understand that this is a place where we are respectful of each other, and I love getting your thoughts and ideas. But I also understand that talking about differences can be uncomfortable for some people. It can create a little bit of an uncomfortable dialogue. And so I want to make sure that I say here at the beginning, as we're going to talk about differences and why we don't celebrate them, that this is in a very, this is in a respectful way of all people, because your differences, our differences, what makes you different from other people, makes you unique. It makes you beautifully unique. It's how you were created. It's how God created you. Every hair on your head, every freckle, every anything that you've ever wanted to have. All of those things, they are part of how you were created. And each person, God is not in the business of making duplicates. So even identical twins have differences. And so as we're talking about our differences and what they are, I'm posing the question to you as to why we don't spend more time celebrating them. And I've written a couple of notes here for myself, just as I was kind of trying about why it is that we as women, why we as a general society don't celebrate differences. We talk about differences. A lot of times we discuss differences in a negative capacity, with negative connotations, even with hate put behind them when we talk about differences. But my question to you is, why aren't we looking at these differences through the lens of love? Why aren't we looking at our differences through the lens of that These things are what make us beautifully unique as individuals. And why aren't we, for that matter, why aren't we more tolerant of each other? Why aren't we more accepting of, the fact that, this woman over here has a beautiful, she's very talented at, being able to put on makeup. She's a very talented artist. She is, any number of things. Why don't we celebrate that more instead of, and my first point on that is maybe one of the reasons why we don't celebrate our differences more is because we are jealous of our differences. Maybe maybe when we see that woman who is a great artist and we always wanted to be, a fabulous painter, but we weren't blessed with that. Maybe we were blessed with the appreciation for art, but not the ability. And so maybe that creates within us a sense of jealousy for, that talent that another woman has, another person has. And maybe that's why we struggle to celebrate it, because we want it and we don't have it. And it seems to come so natural to them. So as we're talking today about our differences and why we don't celebrate them, this is a real conversation. I mean, this is real and thought-provoking, and I want to hear what you have to say about it, because while, yes, I am definitely a person who always believes that there's a better way to do what we can do, we can always make improvements. Again, every instance, every circumstance is an opportunity to learn and grow. And so that's exactly what I want to do here with this conversation, not only for myself, but hopefully for you as well. In looking at things from a different perspective, we can gain some insight that we didn't have before. We can expand our own knowledge base. We can grow our understanding outside of where it currently sits. And maybe that's life-changing for some people. Maybe for some people it's not. But the point is to have the conversation. Because if you don't have the conversation, you don't have the information, right? And so, one of the things that I brought up, why we don't celebrate our differences more is maybe because there's a jealousy factor there. Maybe we covet what they have and we don't know how to process and deal with that. But I think another reason why we don't spend more time actively celebrating the differences that we have as women, as human beings, as people, I think that fear is a real part of that. And I think it's maybe fear of the unknown, and we don't understand, or we don't educate ourselves on that which we don't understand. And so it's an unknown, and maybe that creates a sense of fear. And so it's hard to celebrate something that you're fearful of, I think. Again, drop your comments in here. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if this makes sense to you. And please, again, in a very respectful way, engage in the dialogue here, because I think it's an important conversation to have on why we don't spend more time celebrating our differences. Earlier this week, I talked about all the virtual places you can go, right? All of the cool, online tours that you can take, and all of the different, you can go to different parks, you can go to different places. And I shared during that video that I love being exposed to other cultures. I find it just simply, it's mentally stimulating for me to be able to see how other people live, to be able to see what their experiences are. And not just around the world. Yes, I love seeing different places around the world. I really, really do. Some just beautiful, beautiful places, and how people, how they live. To me, it's fascinating because I'm a lover of people. And but not just around the world, but even within our own country. I was actually looking at some stats the other day on a project that I'm working on for something else, and it was focused in California. And so I'm on the East Coast. I'm in South Carolina, and I've never been to California before. I've met a couple people from California, but I've never traveled there myself. And I gotta say, for whatever reason, there was a map of California up, and it struck me just how large and how massive the state of California is, how much ground it covers, geographically, and how many people there are in California, just the numbers themselves. And because again, I am from and I currently live in South Carolina. It's a small state. I think our population is somewhere right around 5 million total. I believe you could put that. I believe there are more people in like the city of New York than there are in the state of South Carolina. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's pretty close. And so looking at this map of California, it just was a thought of amazement in how large that state is, how expansive it is, how many different people there are in there. And then not only that, but the different areas of the state. You have different populations that have migrated into different places of the state, and the things that, that just within that one state, the cultural differences that are there, all of the different types of people that are there, the ideas of people, the way that they, go about their daily lives, the things that they encounter. And so that really, I guess it's kind of helping me put things in perspective a little bit, because again, I have traveled, not extensively. I have traveled some, and I have met other people from different places, and it's all been fascinating to me, but I don't quite have a good understanding of why we don't spend more time celebrating life, celebrating the differences that make us unique. And tell me, I mean, when I look at other people and I see that they are different from me, I'm not a person who views that as a threat. I am a person who views that as an opportunity for me to get to learn a little bit more about them and where they come from, and what their thoughts are and how they do things, and how do they make macaroni and cheese. No kidding, there's a lot of different ways to make it, but really just all of those things. And so I think, going back to what I was saying about my thoughts on maybe one of the reasons why we don't spend more time celebrating our differences, out of fear, fear of the unknown. But I think it might also be a little bit fear of how we'll be perceived if we ask the question to educate ourselves. If we, maybe we'll be uncomfortable because we're not educated about someone's differences. And, I think about this from the respect of religious beliefs as well. And, understanding what other cultures, what their, how they view religion, how they view it differently from the way that I view it. And for some people, that's a scary concept. For some people, you're afraid to look silly. You're afraid to, be uneducated about something. For some of us, I think some of us may have a fear of what we will actually find out if we ask some of those questions, to try to get a better understanding of another person's differences. And again, again, I'm not just talking about our racial differences. I'm not just talking about our cultural differences, even just your differences in how you think. Um, People are wired a little differently based on, or you can see how people are wired a little differently based on kind of what they do, what their interests are. The artist's brain works differently than the electrician's brain or the engineer's brain. And I gotta say, I find both ends of the spectrum fascinating. I really, really do. My brain is kind of a mix. It's kind of a mix of a lot of different things. Actually, it's a little bit of a mosh pit. Just I enjoy a lot of different things, and I think that sometimes my brain gets confused on which side is supposed to be working. But hey, that's the way that I was made. That's the way that I was created. And so, as we are looking around us, and we are seeing people who are different from us, people who do things differently than we do, even people who are similar. I can get in a room full of blonde-haired women, and I can guarantee you that not all of them are natural. Just the way it is. Mine is. My mother used to fuss at me for wanting to color my hair and make it different colors, and why I was unhappy with, what God had blessed me with. I've learned to like my hair. But, again, neither here nor there. But that's just it. When you put yourself in a room full of people who are just like you, from one respect or another, whether you are all artists and you love the arts and you share a deep passion for it, whether you're all teachers, whether you're all nurses, happy Nurses Week, by the way, whether you are all entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter if, which segment you want to kind of break it down into. When you get a group of the same people together, we all still have differences. And our differences define us to an extent, right? They are part of our makeup. They're part of who we are. And I believe that if God made us with all of these differences, there's got to be a reason for it. There has to be a reason that we have these differences. And I believe that they are to be celebrated. I believe that we can learn so much more from each other when we talk about and when we celebrate our differences than when we sit in silence and make our own judgments based on our own perceptions. And I think that might be one of the reasons why we don't celebrate them either. Because instead of, having that conversation, instead of being educated about it, we have our own perceptions that have been developed based on, our background and our experiences. Your perceptions are shaped by your experiences and what you have encountered and what you have not. And I mean, that's just how it is. It's really hard to have a good opinion about something that you've never encountered, or to have a good opinion about something you're not educated about. But you will base that opinion on your own experiences, on your own background, what you've gone through. And that's just a natural part of who we are, which is why I posed the question today, why don't we spend more time celebrating our differences, learning more about each other, seeing different ways that, we can appreciate each other. We can appreciate those differences. Because I got to tell you, if we didn't have them, if every person, if the entire female population was all the same, and the entire male population was all the same, can you imagine how incredibly boring life would be if we were all the same? I can't imagine. I can't imagine. How boring, how robotic. And for me, I'm a lover of people. I am a lover of life. And so I don't want things to be the same. I love different things because it's exciting. It's intriguing. It's, an opportunity to learn something that I didn't know. It is exposure for me so that I can see, there are lots and lots of different things, and life is not just about, understanding what you do like. Sometimes it's about having an experience and understanding, ooh, I don't like that so much. Food. You guys know I can always go back to food on just about anything. Food, for instance. I like the healthier stuff. I also like Oreos, but kale, Brussels sprouts, things like that, right? I like those. My kids, my husband, no, that is not for them. But they were at least willing to try it. And for them, it was a discovery that that's not what they like. But they can now say, because they've had the experience, that that's not their preference. They don't like that. It is not, it doesn't agree with their palate. For me, on the other hand, trying those things gave me the experience to let me know that I do like them. That does agree with me. Again, we have differences on every level. From our food preferences to our music preferences to our color preferences of paint on our walls. No joke. We have differences in everything. That is part of what makes us each beautifully and wonderfully unique. Each one of us is our own beautiful thread sewn into the human tapestry. And so, think about it. If we were all the same, what a boring, I don't even know if you could call that a tapestry. I don't even know if you could, put, beauty to that, because if everything is all the same, then there's no comparison. There's nothing to offset. There's nothing to complement. There's nothing to bring vibrancy and life. And so I'm gonna close up here for today, but I really I want you ladies to think about that. And why don't we celebrate our differences more? And kind of take that from maybe look inside and ask that question of yourself. Why don't I celebrate my differences? Why don't I celebrate her differences? Why don't I spend more time having an appreciation for the different talents, skills, and abilities that other people have that I don't? Just a thought to ponder on this Friday. I know I brought you something kind of heavy on a Friday, but that's okay. That's okay, because I know you can take it. So anyway, like I said, I would love to hear what you think about why we as women don't spend more time celebrating our differences. And I would love to hear your thoughts, maybe on something that I said. If it resonated with you, you can agree or disagree. I'm completely fine with that, as long as we do it in a respectful manner. I'm totally fine with that, because again, we all have different opinions too, right? We all have different thoughts and experiences and opinions, and that's okay. That's part of what makes this world great. Unfortunately, it's also part of what makes this world really kind of troublesome sometimes. So, as you're thinking about differences and why we don't spend more time celebrating them, keep that in mind. Think about maybe what experiences you have that are preventing you from maybe wanting to celebrate differences in other people that you don't have. Think about that. All right, ladies, thank you to everyone who jumped on here live, and to everyone who is watching in the replay, both on Facebook and the Ladies Live group, Ladies Lunch Break group, and also over on YouTube. For those of you over on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell at the top so that you will be notified when we are live. And until Monday, I hope you ladies all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. A very, very, very happy Mother's Day to all of my mommies out there. We all have mothers, whether they are still here with us or whether they are resting comfortably in heaven above. I hope that you have some time to this weekend just reflect on what your mom means to you. And if you have kids, I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day this weekend. And I will see you all on Monday at 12:30 Eastern right here. Take care, ladies.